The Devil's Mark. Detroit, USA. Once a bustling center with grand houses and bright street lights, now only the ruins of walls, abandoned homes, and silent streets covered in the dust of time remain. The alleys are suffused with a heavy and grim atmosphere. Occasionally, the air is filled with the foul stench of garbage and rotting animal carcasses. What seemed like a place destined to be forgotten, Anna, a 22-year-old intelligent and ambitious woman, rented an old house through Airbnb to prepare for an important interview. The house was vastly different from the others in the town. It had an antique charm, but a certain eeriness, with old wooden walls, dim lights, and the creaking sounds of every step Anna took. She compared the house in the Airbnb photos to what she saw in person, and a number of differences made her shake her head in disappointment. The windows were covered in dust with yellowish stains that looked like some kind of gooey substance. When she tried to scrape it off with her fingernail, it seemed to have hardened long ago. The windows were nailed shut and couldn't be opened. Small cracks ran along the walls, with peeling paint revealing moldy concrete underneath. Anna, a rational person who didn't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, began to feel like she was being watched from the dark corners of the house. However, she quickly dismissed this feeling. After a long day of driving, feeling both hungry and tired, Anna hurried to the bathroom to wash up. As she stood under the warm water, she began to relax. Suddenly, she heard loud noises coming from outside, as if someone was trying to break down the door. Alarmed, she turned off the water and pressed her ear to the bathroom door, listening carefully. The sound had stopped. Seeing a water pipe in the corner, she grabbed it and cautiously stepped out. The room was pitch black, only dim light from the hallway filtered in, but it was enough for her to make her way. With her heart pounding, she stepped carefully toward the front door, peeking outside but seeing nothing but her old car and the rustling trees, thinking she was perhaps imagining things, since the area around the house was abandoned except for her. She started to feel more nervous. Holding the pipe tightly, she slowly cracked the door open and peered outside. A cold wind rushed in, sending a shiver down her spine. "Hello, is anyone there? What do you want?" Anna called out. But all she heard in return was the eerie silence. Relieved, she closed the door behind her. Just as she turned to walk back inside, a dark figure suddenly appeared and kicked the door hard, startling Anna, who screamed, "Hello, can you open the door? We need to talk," the voice from outside called loudly. "Who are you? I don't know you. What could we possibly need to talk about?" Anna responded. She approached the door, carefully inspecting the man outside, who appeared to be a young, seemingly respectable and educated person. However, she remained cautious, keeping her guard up. The man, sensing her hesitation, took out his phone, tapped something, and held the screen up against the door for Anna to see. It was the Airbnb page, the same one where she had booked the house, and surprisingly, he too had rented the same property. The service had mistakenly double-booked them both, and neither of them had known. Realizing the situation, Anna lowered the pipe and opened the door to invite the man inside. He introduced himself as Mark, 30 years old, a writer. He had rented the house seeking inspiration for his work, but had ended up in this unfortunate situation. Anna pressed her hand to her forehead, deep in thought. So, what should we do now? We can't stay together in this house. It's already dark outside, and finding another room at this hour will be hard, Anna said helplessly. If you don't mind, I'll sleep on the sofa tonight. Tomorrow, I'll contact the service to resolve this. I think I should let you have the room, Mark replied, smiling gently. Anna shrugged and agreed, reminding Mark to respect boundaries before heading to the bathroom and locking the door behind her. She couldn't stop thinking about the man outside and decided to let him stay for the night. She pressed her ear to the door to listen, but he seemed calm because she didn't hear any sounds coming from him. When Anna came out, she saw Mark leisurely reading a book, his figure exuding a certain charm, a captivating intellectual aura that momentarily mesmerized Anna. "Are you done with your shower?" Mark said, waving his hand in front of Anna. At that moment, she realized she had been staring at him for too long and quickly changed the subject, feeling embarrassed. "You should take a shower. I'm planning to make bistec and some salad. Do you want to join me?" "Oh, that sounds great. I happen to have a bottle of wine that will go perfectly with it," Mark responded with a smile. They both laughed. Looking at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. Anna urged Mark to shower while she quickly finished preparing the meal. She had an important interview the next day, so she couldn't stay up too late. As Anna focused on making the salad, Mark called out, "Anna, could you get me the green towel? It's in the corner of my suitcase." "Sure, just a moment," Anna replied. She walked over to Mark's suitcase, and as she unzipped it, she was startled by the sight of a rusty knife, some old stained photos, and a notebook with illegible writing. "Do you see it, Anna?" Mark's voice echoed from the other room. Anna quickly composed herself, grabbed the towel, and opened the door to hand it to Mark. She tried to ignore what she had just seen and continued preparing the salad. They ate dinner in a tense atmosphere, with Anna wanting to ask about the disturbing items she had glimpsed, but at the same time not wanting to bring up such fearful thoughts. Mark seemed to notice something was off and spoke up. "Is something wrong? You look a bit pale." "Oh, I'm fine. I'm a little tired," Anna hesitated, replying. "Did you see something you weren't supposed to see?" Mark asked again, his sharp eyes fixed on her. Anna panicked, her hand trembling as she held her fork. She wasn't sure how to respond and started thinking of ways to escape if he had any harmful intentions. Suddenly, Mark burst out laughing, seeming genuinely amused. "Why are you so scared? I was just asking. Those are just a few self-defense tools I use when I go camping and exploring archaeological sites," Mark explained. Relieved, Anna let out a sigh. The atmosphere around the table grew more relaxed. Mark seemed very impressed with Anna's cooking skills, continuously praising her, which made her feel pleased. After a few glasses of wine, they opened up more about their lives. Mark learned that Anna was pursuing her dream of becoming a journalist, while Anna discovered that Mark had once been a Marine. In her eyes, soldiers were often quite admirable and cool. The two chatted happily until the clock struck midnight. Anna suddenly realized and jumped up to clear the table. Mark motioned for her to go rest in the bedroom, assuring her that he would take care of cleaning up. Anna hesitated, but, with Mark's insistence, reluctantly agreed to go to the bedroom, wishing him a good night. Mark smiled and nodded, watching her as she left until the bedroom door shut, locking with a soft click. Anna smiled at herself in the mirror, content with the evening, before quickly lying down on the bed, drifting off into a deep sleep. At 3 a.m., the bedroom door suddenly opened with a soft creak, the sound echoing through the stillness. But Anna remained unaware. When a shuffling noise and a cold draft entered, she woke with a shiver. She saw the door open and felt a sense of unease creeping in. Slowly, she moved toward the door and peered out into the living room. A dark figure swiftly passed by in the hallway. Anna rubbed her eyes, thinking she might have imagined it, but then she called out, "Mark, where are you?" What responded were soft sobs and incoherent mumblings from Mark, his limbs flailing as if trying to chase something in his dream. Anna cautiously approached the sofa and gently shook him. "Mark, are you okay?" Mark suddenly shot up, screaming, his hands tightly gripping Anna's throat. His wide-open eyes locked on hers. Anna, unable to breathe, couldn't say a word. She desperately clawed at his arm, hoping to snap him out of it. After a few seconds, Mark came to his senses, recognizing Anna, and quickly apologized. "Why are you out here? You scared me. Did you have a nightmare? You look awful. You almost killed me." Anna coughed a few times, not forgetting to tease Mark. She got up, took a few sips of water, then remembered something. "Did you open the bedroom door? I remember locking it."
"No. Why would you think that? After cleaning, I went straight to bed. You must have forgotten to lock it. There's only the two of us in this house," Mark shrugged, reassuring her to go back to sleep.
Anna still had her doubts, but decided to let it go, thinking that Mark's explanation made sense. She returned to the bedroom, carefully locked the door again, and lay down in bed. However, she couldn't fall asleep, her eyes constantly drifting to the doorknob. The next morning, Anna woke up with two large, dark circles under her eyes. She sighed at her reflection in the mirror. As she entered the living room, she noticed Mark was gone, leaving only a note with a few lines. "I left early, but I've prepared some breakfast. I hope you enjoy it. I will visit the service desk to sort this out. Best of luck with your interview. Mark." Anna glanced at Mark's green suitcase, still sitting there, feeling somewhat relieved. Checking the time, she saw it was almost time for her interview, so she hurriedly got ready, ate the breakfast Mark had left, and drove into the city center. Today, luck was on her side as her interviewer turned out to be an old colleague and friend, making the interview smoother than she had expected. After the interview, she stayed and chatted with her friend for a few more hours.
"Where are you staying? If you have time, I might drop by to visit," her friend asked.
"I'm at 43 Detroit Avenue," Anna replied. Upon hearing the address, her friend froze for a moment and his expression changed. "Are you serious?" he asked, his tone suddenly very serious. "Why not? Aside from the neighborhood being run down and abandoned, the house I'm staying in is fine. It's a little far from work, but it's cheap and suits my budget." Anna laughed. Her friend's face grew tense. He suddenly grabbed Anna's hand and said, "Think very carefully. That place is empty now, but there have been many frightening incidents there in the past. You should be more cautious." Anna shrugged and gave a casual reply, and the two parted ways. On her drive home, she couldn't stop thinking about what her friend had said, an unsettling feeling creeping over her. When she arrived, she found that Mark still hadn't returned. Anna carefully checked the house, but found no signs of struggle or any violence on the walls. She suddenly laughed at herself for scaring herself unnecessarily. She went to the bedroom, changed clothes, and began preparing lunch when she heard a loud bang from downstairs that caught her attention. Following the hallway, Anna discovered another room she hadn't noticed before. She slowly opened the door and found a small basement area used for laundry and storing old items. The noise had come from a wooden chair that had fallen over. As she straightened the chair, Anna noticed something under it. Curious, she lifted it up and found a thick rope connected to a small hole. She picked it up, inspected it closely, and then pulled it hard. A loud echoed through the room, causing Anna to jump and look toward the source. A hidden door in the wall revealed itself, and with curiosity, she peered inside, but it was only a void of eerie darkness. Anna grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, slowly walking down the narrow, dark hallway. Ahead, she saw a dimly lit room containing only a rusted bed, a murky basin of water, a video camera, and the walls marked with deep red scratches. The room reeked of something rancid, making Anna feel nauseous. She shined the flashlight further ahead, but the path continued into a tunnel. The uncertainty of where it led sending a rush of fear through her. As she considered going further, a horrifying scream echoed from afar, causing Anna to immediately turn and run back. When she returned to the laundry room, she found the door locked shut, and despite her efforts, it wouldn't budge. Panicking, Anna pulled at the door while nervously glancing at the dark door ahead, fearful that something might emerge. She used whatever she could find in the room to barricade it, then attempted to call for help, but there was no signal. The terror overwhelmed her, and from behind the black door, another scream echoed, making Anna hold her breath, her body stiff in front of the door. Her eyes darted around the room until she noticed a small window above. It was just big enough for her to crawl through. But when she tried to break it with a chair, she found the glass to be unbreakable, made from thick tempered glass. Panic and tension overtook her, and her breath became erratic, her heart pounding as though it might burst from her chest. She thought she was going to die here when, suddenly, Mark appeared at the window. "What are you doing down here?" "Help me. The main door is stuck. I can't get out," Anna cried, tears welling up. "Okay, just wait a minute," Mark replied, stepping inside. A few minutes later, he appeared, unlocking the door and letting Anna out. Without a word, Anna rushed out and quickly drank from a water bottle. "Did you go to the laundry room or take a shower?" Mark teased, noticing how drenched in sweat Anna was. "Do you know about that room?" Anna asked, eyeing him suspiciously. "Last night, when I went to get some toilet paper, I found it. It's just an old storage room, nothing to be scared of," Mark answered. "Did you see the basement in that room? And the screams, the strange sounds last night?" Anna asked, fear evident in her voice. "No, I didn't hear anything. What basement are you talking about?" "I don't understand," Mark said, looking curious. "Nothing," Anna replied, not wanting to discuss it any further. She retreated to her bedroom and closed the door. Anna tried to search for information about the house online, but it was a mystery. There was nothing except news about the neighborhood. Frustrated, she closed her laptop, resting her hand on her forehead, thinking about the things she had encountered in that storage room, before eventually falling asleep. When Anna woke up, it was already dark. She went to the living room to find Mark, but noticed he was gone, though his belongings were still there. From the basement, She could hear screams and pounding on the door, sending chills down her spine. She hesitated, unsure whether to go down. Then Mark's scream caught her attention, and she immediately rushed to the door. As she opened it, she froze in fear, staring into the blackness of the tunnel, not knowing what to do next, thinking that Mark might be in danger. She couldn't just ignore it. So, she grabbed her flashlight and cautiously stepped into the tunnel. Passing the strange room, she saw nothing new except the items she had noticed earlier. The flickering light from the room made the atmosphere even more terrifying. As she ventured deeper, the air became suffocating, the damp, musty smell overpowering. Suddenly, a figure flashed across her path, making Anna jump back in fear. "Hello? Is that Mark? It's Anna." "Hello? Is anyone there?" In response, there was only silence. The sound of water dripping from somewhere echoed, drawing Anna's curiosity. She shone the flashlight ahead to gauge the depth of the tunnel, but it seemed deeper than she had expected. She cautiously looked around for any signs of Mark when, suddenly, a hand grabbed her. "It's me, Anna." Anna opened her eyes, and it was indeed Mark. His face was filled with fear, and his hand was covered with deep scratches, bleeding profusely. Mark suddenly grabbed her hand tightly, pulling her deeper into the tunnel, claiming there was an exit there. But Anna's intuition told her otherwise, and she tried to pull Mark in the opposite direction. "No, the exit is behind us." They continued struggling, unaware of the danger closing in on them. Just as Mark yanked the flashlight from Anna's hand and tried to pull her along, a hideous creature appeared, shrieking and slamming its fist into Mark's head, knocking him unconscious. Without a second thought, Anna bolted, using her agility to escape the dark tunnel, slamming the black door behind her and blocking it with everything she could find. Behind the door, the creature's terrifying roars and the force of its blows made the door shake violently. Anna could only cover her mouth, using all her strength to hold the door shut. After several minutes of pounding, the creature finally left. Exhausted, Anna collapsed to the floor, still trembling with fear. What worried her most was Mark. She had no idea what that creature would do to him. She quickly ran to her room, grabbed her phone, and called the police. Since they were in a rural area, it would take an hour for them to arrive. After hearing Anna's story, 2 officers merely chuckled, dismissing it as a late-night ghost story. Annoyed by their mocking attitude, Anna insisted they come check the house with her, but the police officers explained they had other important duties and immediately left, leaving Anna alone with her fear, unsure of what to do or where to go that night. "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" Anna jumped and turned to see a burly man with dark skin running toward her. "Who are you? I thought no one lived here," she asked. The man glanced at Anna but didn't respond immediately. His eyes darted toward the basement with a fearful expression. He grabbed Anna's arm and started pulling her away. Anna was confused and about to ask more questions when he gestured for her to be quiet. He took her to his hideout, a derelict factory whose interior resembled a rundown homeless shelter in New York City, but surprisingly made her feel safe. The man gestured for Anna to sit by a fire, handing her a piece of bread and a hot cup of tea before sitting beside her. "I'm John, 65 years old, a resident of this neighborhood. I've lived and worked here for half my life, and I just couldn't leave." "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Anna, the owner of the house I was staying at." I was wondering if you knew anything about it. From what I saw earlier, I'm guessing you know a thing or two about the strange occurrences in the basement," Anna said. John didn't reply immediately. He sipped his tea, lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and then looked up at the sky as if lost in thought. "It's the remnants of a demon," John said, his voice low. The mention of a demon made Anna shudder, and she asked again, "What do you mean by demon? I don't quite understand." "Years ago, the owner of that house was Tom, a house painter. He was a quiet man, kept to himself, and didn't interact much with the neighbors. Nobody knew much about him. He would go to work and come home, locking himself in. When crime and murder became rampant in the neighborhood, many people sold their houses and left, but he just stayed. Then, after a large-scale robbery in the area, he disappeared without a trace." "Was he kidnapped?" Anna asked. "No, he just vanished from the house. I used to hear women's screams from that house, but I never dared go near. Later, the screams became more like monstrous howls. One night, when I was observing from the tower, I saw a tall figure that looked human, but wasn't. It dragged a large animal carcass toward the house you're staying in." "Was it a creature about 2 meters tall, with sparse hair, a face that resembled a human, but was deformed, and a pale white body?" Anna asked. "Yes, that's it. It seems that strange man raised that demon, and when he died, it was left without food, so it came out. You should avoid going out at night. In fact, you should leave that cursed place," John said, his tone sincere. "But what about my friend? I can't just leave him behind," Anna said resolutely. "Do you really think your friend is still alive after falling into the hands of that demon?" John said, then laughed derisively. Anna gripped John's hand, asking him to return with her the next morning to try and rescue Mark. She believed he was still alive. John looked her in the eye and shook his head slowly. He remained silent. The next morning, John agreed to help Anna rescue Mark. He was also curious about the strange creature and wanted to do something significant with his life. When they entered the house, a foul smell hit them immediately. Blood-stained scratches marked the walls, and giant footprints led down to the basement. The furniture had been tossed around. The two of them shuddered at the sight, and Anna's anxiety about Mark's condition only grew. John led the way, and Anna cautiously followed. The door to the storage room was wide open, and it too showed signs of being violently torn apart, as if the creature had been searching for something. Blood-stained footprints stretched into the dark tunnel. They tried to calm themselves before continuing deeper inside. Since it was daytime, they hoped the creature might still be asleep after a night of madness. They followed the straight path and stopped before 2 different junctions. Anna intended to separate from John, but he disagreed, warning that it would be too dangerous. So the two decided to explore the first path together. From afar, they saw a faint light and heard the voice of a woman. They cautiously approached and peeked inside, only to witness an unbelievable scene. The room was covered with many blankets and a lamp was lit. A phone was repeatedly playing a program about a mother breastfeeding her child. Anna was curious and wanted to go inside to investigate further when heavy footsteps and labored breathing suddenly echoed from behind. Terrified, John pulled Anna back, and the monster seemed to have caught their scent, rushing toward them. They sprinted as fast as they could, but unfortunately, they fell into a deep pit. When the monster reached the pit, it suddenly stopped, staring down at them. Its nose made sniffing sounds before it left. "John!" Anna called out, feeling her way around to find him. A cold hand suddenly gripped her shoulder, making her jump. "Anna, is that you?" A familiar voice echoed. "Mark, is that you? You're still alive," Anna shouted with relief. John, now awake from the shock, was also happy to know that Anna's friend was still alive. He greeted Mark with a handshake. In the deep pit, the three of them could only see faint light coming from a distance. The air was damp and foul, making it hard to breathe. "Why did you come back here? Do you want to die?" Mark asked. "I had a feeling you were still alive, so I couldn't leave you," Anna replied, coughing. "But how did the monster spare you? I thought it would have torn you apart by now," John asked, confused. "I don't understand either. When I woke up, I found myself down here in this filthy place," Mark explained. As they were talking, a low growl came from above. They looked up and saw the monster standing there, holding a large bottle of milk and shining a flashlight down into the pit. Mark suddenly stood up and began drinking from the bottle like a child. John and Anna were still confused when the bottle was pointed at Anna. The monster shook the bottle, signaling her to drink, but Anna didn't want to touch the disgusting liquid. Mark silently signaled her to comply, warning her not to anger the monster. Terrified, Anna closed her eyes and reluctantly sucked on the bottle's nipple. When it was John's turn, he too closed his eyes and did the same. The warm milk, though unpleasantly sour, slid down his throat, making him feel nauseous. Once the monster saw the bottle had been emptied, it stood up, making baby-like noises, then tapped on the pit's cover a few times before leaving. "I've been kept alive by that milk for the past few days," Mark spoke up. "That's disgusting," John muttered. "Did you see anything around the pit? The smell?" "We can smell it. It's coming from the bodies thrown down here. This is a mass grave." Anna trembled. "Where exactly?" John asked. "Everywhere, even under our feet," Anna said, sitting down and feeling the ground. She picked up a bone fragment and showed it to them. John sniffed it, then threw it down in disgust. "That's definitely human bone. What kind of hell are we in? Is the monster fattening us up to eat us? Damn it," John shouted angrily. Anna rested her hand on her forehead, reflecting on the consequences of her decisions. If she hadn't been so stubborn, if she had listened to her friend's warning, she wouldn't be here, facing that monstrous thing outside. A tear slowly slid down her cheek. Mark, sensing her distress, spoke to reassure them. "We're still alive. That means there's still a chance. As you can see, I've been trapped here for days and haven't been harmed by the monster. Things will be fine if we just wait." A few hours later, they heard the monster's heavy footsteps approaching. Another bottle of milk was lowered into the pit. The three of them drank obediently, and the monster seemed satisfied. Before leaving, it tossed down a warm blanket and 2 rattles, making sounds like a lullaby, but unable to pronounce the words correctly. The smell and the damp atmosphere in the pit made it unbearable. Despite their exhaustion, lying next to the skeletons would be even worse. Anna stared up at the pit's lid. From the faint light, she realized that with their combined height, the three of them could escape. She carefully thought through the path they had taken, calculating their moves and the monster's appearances, then suddenly spoke up. startling Mark and John. "We have 3 people. We can escape from this pit. John, do you remember the program on the phone in that room? And the way the monster gave us milk? It's trying to be a mother. Usually, when a mother feeds her child, she makes it fall asleep." The tapping on the pit lid seems like a good night gesture. Now is the best time to escape. Mark and I will form a human ladder to get you out first. Then I'll go. And lastly, Mark, we have to move quickly and quietly so the monster doesn't notice us, Anna continued. After understanding the plan, they immediately got to work. Once out of the pit, the 3 of them sneaked back, searching for an exit. As they passed the room with the phone, they saw the monster was focused on filling a bottle of milk, humming a lullaby from the program. Noticing the monster's attention was elsewhere, the 3 held their breath and quietly moved past. When they reached the junction of 2 paths, Mark stopped and suggested they explore the second one. "Are you crazy? We need to get out of here before the monster notices," Anna whispered. "I'm curious about what's down the second path," John replied. With that, Mark and John took the second path, and Anna reluctantly followed. They groped their way through the darkness and reached another room. Inside, it was filled with garbage, rats, and cockroaches. The smell was overwhelming. On a cabinet, an old TV played music from the 90s, but there was no image, only the sound. Looking through the curtain, they discovered an elderly man gasping for breath on a bed surrounded by garbage, empty liquor bottles, and beer cans piled high. John approached and realized the man looked familiar. After brushing aside the thick beard, John gasped in shock and yelled, "It's Tom, the guy I told you about, Anna." Hearing this, Anna rushed forward to look. It was the first time she had seen him. His old face was cold and sinister. Strangely, he didn't speak, only stared at them thoughtfully, then motioned toward the cabinet next to the bed. Mark seemed to understand, walked over and grabbed a half-empty bottle of alcohol, pouring it near Tom's mouth. Miraculously, the old man slowly sat up, his bony, trembling hand reaching into the cabinet and pulling out a gun. The 3 of them recoiled in fear. "Hey, buddy, calm down. We just accidentally stumbled in here. We'll leave right away." John tried to reassure him. The old man remained silent, loading the gun. The 3 of them quickly crouched down, looking for cover. Bang! A loud noise rang out, and the bed shook violently with creaks. The 3 looked at each other in confusion. When they stood up to check, they found that the old man had shot himself in the head. The gunshot seemed to attract the monster. It screamed and rushed toward them, making the 3 of them panic. Anna noticed a gap under the bed and immediately pulled Mark and John under it. Strangely, they waited and waited but didn't hear the monster enter. They only heard its heavy breathing, slowly fading away, as if it had disappeared. Mark cautiously went outside to check and saw the monster retreating into the distance before disappearing into the dark silence. The 3 exchanged confused glances. What had made the monster back off? They split up to search around the room for anything they could use to defend themselves against the monster outside, but all they found was a gun with only 2 bullets left. Anna discovered an old, tattered journal in a drawer and slipped it into her bag. John found several rusted metal rods buried in the trash. Mark opened the drawers of a large cabinet and found a series of strange tapes, each labeled with a person's name. He froze when he saw one marked 0 Shellen. Anna moved closer to see it, but Mark pushed her away, slipping the tape into his jacket pocket before stepping out the door, leaving Anna with a confused look. Mark stood silently for a while, occasionally glancing back at the old man on the bed, his eyes flickering with something sinister. After gathering some makeshift weapons, the three of them carefully moved outside. Mark led the way, and they dared not use their flashlights, fearing the light would attract the monster. They moved slowly through the darkness, tension and fear surrounding them. Reaching a junction, Mark observed the area, noticing no immediate danger. He gestured for the others to keep moving. When they saw a faint light ahead, it was coming from the strange room, meaning they were close to escaping. This thought brought a glimmer of hope to their hearts, but John couldn't shake off a feeling of intense unease. This smooth progress felt too strange. He constantly felt as if something was watching them. The heavy breathing in his ear made his hair stand on end. John kept looking behind him to check, but there was nothing unusual. Suddenly, he felt something wet on his head. He raised his hand to touch the liquid and smelled it, the stench of rot making him gag. Instinctively, he looked up at the ceiling of the basement. The monster's eyes glinted in the darkness, its pale, lifeless body casting an eerie glow. It was crawling above them, making horrifying hissing noises. "Everyone, run!" John yelled. As soon as he shouted, the monster leapt down and grabbed John, squeezing his head tightly before digging its thumbs into his eyes. John screamed in agony, and Mark and Anna, paralyzed with fear, couldn't move. Anna, terrified, couldn't help but scream, drawing the monster's attention. It turned towards the other two, ready to attack. John, with his last bit of strength, held onto the monster's leg, buying Anna and Mark a moment to escape. "Run!" John shouted. Mark snapped out of his stupor, lifted Anna, and ran with all his might. The monster, after killing John, sprinted after them. When Mark slammed the door shut, the monster charged at it, using its body to ram against the door in an attempt to break out. Mark and Anna piled everything they could find in front of the door, but it was a temporary solution. The monster was too strong, and cracks started appearing in the door. Mark suggested that Anna use the metal rod to break open the window, which might be their quickest escape. Anna immediately acted, and after a few blows, the window shattered. She quickly crawled out, starting the car. Since Mark couldn't fit through the window, he used whatever he could find to block the door and ran quickly toward the house's front door. Unfortunately, the monster was faster. After breaking through the door, it jumped onto the ceiling, and in just a few movements, it landed right in front of the main door, blocking their exit. Mark, terrified, backed away, eyes darting around for something to use. The monster, as if reading his mind, immediately reached out and grabbed Mark, squeezing him tightly. Mark felt his muscles about to tear under the immense pressure. In panic, he grabbed the knife at his belt, slashing at the monster's face, causing it to release him in pain. When it turned its attention away from him, Mark quickly slashed its thigh and landed a final blow to its eye before rushing outside. Anna, who had been anxiously waiting, sighed in relief when she saw him. Mark hopped into the car and signaled Anna to hit the gas. They looked back and saw the monster, wounded and missing an eye, still chasing them. It initially ran on 2 legs, but switched to all 4s, leaping onto nearby rooftops and trees before jumping directly onto the roof of Anna's car, causing the two to scream in terror. Anna swerved the car in an attempt to shake the monster off, but it clung to the roof. Suddenly, the engine sputtered and the car slowed down. Anna desperately tried to restart the car, but it remained still. The outside air grew eerily quiet, and Mark checked the rearview mirror, but saw nothing. Just as they thought the monster had given up, a loud crash rang out, and the monster reappeared, relentlessly pounding on the car door. The sound was deafening, and the windows rattled, showing signs of breaking as the monster's growls chilled them to the bone. With a final crash, the windows shattered, and the monster stood still, glaring at them with fierce eyes, its breath heavy and rhythmic. Both Anna and Mark froze, too terrified to move. The monster suddenly reached inside, grabbing Mark's head and trying to pull him out. Mark struggled, seizing a shard of glass and slashing at the monster's arm, forcing it to release him. At that moment, Anna managed to start the car. She quickly hit the gas, ramming the car into the monster, sending it flying off the car and onto the ground. Mark watched the scene with satisfaction and praised Anna's driving skills. The crash seemed to fuel the monster's rage. It crawled back to its feet, glaring at the car as it drove away. It suddenly leaped onto the roof again, continuing its acrobatic pursuit. With a powerful push, it landed on the car's roof again, denting it severely. The monster continued to hammer the roof with its hands, each blow further warping the vehicle. Seeing a few large columns ahead, Anna sped toward them, hoping the momentum would knock the monster into them. The tactic worked. After swerving a few times, the monster was forced to jump off the car's roof. Without hesitation, Anna reversed, choosing the best position before slamming the car into the monster. This time, it didn't fall to the ground, but clung tightly to the hood. Anna accelerated at full speed, crashing the car into a building's wall, creating a large hole. The monster was trapped between the car and the wall, dying instantly. Its eyes stared straight at Anna, sending a chill down her spine. Once the monster was still, Anna and Mark made their way to John's hideout. They mourned John's death, planning to return with the police the next day to retrieve the bodies. Anna recalled the journal she had found in the old man's basement. She opened it, eager to uncover the horrifying truth. The old man had documented his crimes as a twisted trophy. 31 years ago, he had been hired to paint a house for a couple. On that day, the husband was out, leaving only the wife, who had just given birth. The old man took advantage of the situation, kidnapping the woman and locking her in his basement, a room he had planned to build for this exact purpose. She became his sex slave, and over time, she bore him 4 children. 2 sons were thrown into the pit to survive on their own. 1 daughter was kept alive, but the last one died in the womb during birth. The old man likely disposed of all the bodies, tossing them into the pit. Anna shuddered at the thought of the pit filled with skeletons. The old man continued to care for the surviving girl, and as she grew up, he repeated his vile actions on her. This pattern continued for many years, with new generations born and many lives thrown into the pit. The monster was a flawed product of incest. A wave of nausea hit Anna, and she ran to the yard, vomiting violently. This was the first time she had encountered such a perverse and grotesque event. Unlike Anna, Mark remained silent throughout, his hands clenched as if holding back his emotions. Anna didn't ask him about it, simply handing him a cup of coffee to soothe him. She assumed he must feel just as disgusted as she did. As she was about to lie down to rest, a loud crash shook the room. The wall in front of them collapsed, and the monster appeared from the dust, breathing heavily and growling angrily. Its red eyes locked on them. Anna grabbed Mark's hand and ran toward the stairs, but the monster quickly followed, climbing up the beams with incredible speed. Trapped, Anna looked down. From this height, jumping would mean certain death, but staying would mean being killed by the monster. As it approached, they became even more frantic. Suddenly, Mark grabbed her shoulder. "Thank you, Anna. I'm sorry, but this is the only way one of us can survive." Saying that, Mark pushed her down. Strangely, the monster jumped after her, catching her just in time and turning Anna so she could lie on its body. The force of the impact caused the ground to crack open, creating a large hole. Anna groggily opened her eyes and found herself still alive. She looked at the motionless monster, its head bleeding profusely, and a feeling of pity rose within her. Mark suddenly ran over and hugged Anna. "I'm so glad you're okay. I did it out of necessity." "But the monster really acted just like I thought," Mark said, laughing loudly. Before Anna could respond, Mark's body was ripped apart right before her eyes. Anna screamed in horror, unable to speak. The monster was still alive. It slowly approached, gently stroking her face, sniffing her, and checking her body to see if she was injured. It made babbling sounds like a child learning to speak, wanting to care for her like a mother caring for her child. Anna noticed the gun in Mark's pocket and reached for it. Slowly, she aimed the gun at the monster's head. Although it saw the gun, the monster didn't react. It remained focused on caressing her face as if comforting her like a child. Anna unconsciously shed tears, then resolutely pulled the trigger. The monster fell to the ground, and in its final moments, its gaze remained fixed on Anna, making soft sounds as if trying to comfort her. Exhausted, Anna slowly made her way back to the base and collapsed onto a cot, falling into a deep sleep. The next morning, Anna was awoken by the cawing of crows. Looking outside, she saw the sun had already risen, and she reluctantly sat up. She looked around the base, remembering John, and then left. The monsters and Mark's bodies lay on the street, with rats and crows picking at their flesh. Anna waved them away and covered the bodies with some blankets she found at the base. She returned to the rented house, but it had been destroyed by the monster. Anna sighed in sadness, then searched for her phone to report the incident to the police. She packed her belongings, preparing to leave the cursed neighborhood. Her car had broken down, so she searched for Mark's car keys. Recalling his strange behavior, she took his journal and some photos from his suitcase. 3 days later, Anna settled into a new city with a satisfactory job. She finally had some free time to read the news, and the hot topic lately was the strange monster in Detroit and the series of murders linked to it. The old man Tom's kidnapping and rape case was also being reported. The police had seized over 1,000 tapes documenting Tom's vile acts with the kidnapped woman and the children born to her. Anna realized that the strange room was where the old man had tortured and filmed his crimes. It was truly twisted and disgusting. She remembered the things she had taken from Mark's suitcase. In the journal, aside from the strange symbols, there were confessions from Mark. Anna was shocked to learn the truth that Mark was the child of the woman kidnapped 31 years ago, and the tape labeled 0 Helen. was probably his mother's name. This explained his disturbing behavior, but the horror didn't stop there. What was even more terrifying was that his own father had colluded with Tom to carry out this twisted plan. He had taken out a huge insurance policy on his wife and then conspired with Tom. Tom agreed not to take the money, only wanting Mark's mother. Mark's father, deeply in debt and marrying Helen out of responsibility for their child, immediately agreed to Tom's offer. After Helen was tortured to death, Mark's father received the insurance payout. The truth came to light when Mark overheard his father confiding in his stepmother. He had held a grudge ever since, waiting for the right time to get his revenge. When Mark turned 20, he killed his father with a fruit knife, the same knife he carried with him to this day. Mark meticulously planned the murder, making it look like a robbery gone wrong, successfully claiming the insurance money. He killed his father the same way his father had killed his wife, Helen. Afterward, Mark used the insurance money to wander around and became a horror novel writer. Anna researched Mark's family case online, comparing the photo she had with the one of Mark's family. Suddenly, Anna felt a chill run down her spine. She had spent nearly a week living with a murderer, and he had played his part too well. The saying "a devil creates another devil" couldn't be truer.